Okay, Be'ezat Hashem, Naaseh v'natzliach. I want to welcome you as we continue our learning at the Lighthouse project. Tonight we're going to deposit another installment of our spiritual and character refinement series, as we are 2/3 of the way along the spiritual journey of counting the Omer. We like to take the time to partake in learning in the Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers. In our last lesson, very, very interesting lesson, very enjoyable lesson. I can tell you that I clearly remember that Mishnah, the nuances. If you remember the excesses of life, 5 that were good, 5 that were bad. It's interesting because when I was reading Pirkei Avot this Shabbat, that particular Mishnah just jumped up at me, and I was like, "But I really understand this one." So we're going to repeat the same thing today. We're going to focus on one Mishnah, learn it really good, and see what lesson we could extract for our lives today. Extract was for you, by the way. Sure. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to give some dedications. Be'ezat Hashem, that this class will be to the Ilui Nishmat of David ben Zohara, Yaniv ben Rina, Miriam bat Esther, Yonatan ben Alice, Eli Uziel ben Yosef Viramo. Also to the general Hatzlacha of Inbal bat Jacqueline bat Chel ban Jacqueline, and the Refuah Shelema of Shalom ben Hasiba and Michael ben Eliyahu. Now we have sponsors tonight, Baruch Hashem. Our first sponsor is Etel Devor bat Mera Miriam, doing this in memory of her beloved father Avram ben Yeshua, Zichrono Livracha, and in gratitude to Hashem for all His blessings. Also, we have our good friend Tara Ezer, who is dedicating this to the future generations of the Israelites, and may Hashem give them the strength to continue in carrying the torch. Chazaka ubrucha Tara, a good friend of the class. Also, a very, very good friend of the class and a personal friend of mine, Igal, Shalom, and Freddie, dedicating this class in honor of his wife, Leah bat Miriam, and their new son, born on April 22nd, with blessings for their children, Avraham, Moshe, Rachel Bella, and Gavriel Israel ben Leah, and Refuah Shelema for Eliyahu ben Chana, and with gratitude to Sharone for his deep Torah classes. Thank you, Mr. Manfredi. And notice that they said that they had a new baby boy, but obviously they didn't get to the bris, so we don't have the name. So they just dedicated to the name of the baby, but we don't have the name yet. But I love you guys. Looking forward to meeting the new baby boy. Okay, let's get started. So we are now in the middle of a journey, 50-day journey from Pesach to Shavuot. We count 7 weeks, 7 days, total of 49 days, and on the 50th day it's Shavuot. And this counting of the Omer is basically us mimicking the Jews' journey in the desert, when they upgraded themselves 1 day at a time until reaching Har Sinai, where they were a proper vessel to receive the Torah, as they left one gate of impurity and entered another gate of holiness. That's the counting. Every day that you count, you get out of one door of Tum'ah and enter a different door of Tahara, a different door of Kedusha. It's basically a daily transformation of erasing past conditioning and infusing the spiritual upgrade with the new reality of the new freedom. And that's what happened with the Jews. The Jews were constantly reprogramming themselves. This is how it used to be. We are this now. This is where we used to live. This is where we're going to live. This is how we used to act. This is how we're going to act. This is how we used to speak. This is how we're going to speak. Everything was an exchange of old values and social conditioning, as they prepare themselves to be a proper vessel to receive the greatest gift to humankind, given especially to the Jewish people, the Torah. And the reason why we do this, the source for why we're doing what we're doing right now, is in Megillat Esther, something that we constantly mention over and over and over in every class, because if it's a concept that you must understand. that the reason why we are mimicking what the Jews did in the desert is because there are spiritually infused days, and because these days then had these spiritual upgrades, when they loop around every year, we try to get plugged into them as well. Because the pasuk says in Megillat Esther, "V'hayamim ha'eleh," and these days, nizkarim, are mentioned, v'na'asim, and they are made, they happen, bechol dor vador, in every generation. That means you have to imagine the year as one cyclical year, that each day has a lot of special days that we can tap into. And right now we're in a 49-day envelope, and we're trying to tap into what happened in these 49 days in the past. And what happened? The Jews' spiritual transformational journey from slaves to freedom, from Egypt to Har Sinai. And this same spiritual energy that was available then is available to us now. The same spiritual upgrade that they had then is the same spiritual upgrade that is available to us now. And we try to tap into this every single year. And so we can prepare ourselves to receive the Torah again. Again, this is not a one-time thing. Every single year, we do the exact same thing. We count, we learn, and we try to get an upgrade. So like that, in the 50th day, we receive the Torah again. What's the difference between last year and this year? What's the difference between last year and 10 years ago? Each year, you receive the Torah on a different level. You have a better understanding. You've lived out a different Jewish year. You've picked up more learning. You've picked up more mitzvot. You've picked up more understanding. You've picked up more Torah concept. You lived out more of a Torah life. So when you receive the Torah again, it's on a higher level, right? So as we are now on this journey, we're right now just a few days away from receiving the Torah again, and on a much higher level.
So you're saying that the source, is something from Megillah Esther. It tells us to do this every generation, every year. They tell us that
there's a pasuk in Megillat Esther that says that whatever happened here, it has. I'll translate it again.
We started counting the Omer after that?
Oh no! This is the source where everything throughout the year that is spiritual can be revisited again on that specific date, because there's those days are spiritually infused with spiritual energy that we try to plug ourselves into. Just like Rosh Hashanah, just like Kippur, just like Sukkot, just like Shabbat, just like Rosh Chodesh, just like Tisha B'Av, just like all these things. So right now, just like those are singular days or multiple days that we can get plugged into, and each one has a different thing, a different spiritual energy that we try to plug into. Right now we're in a spiritual envelope of 49 days that offers us spiritual and character refinement. We work on our character, we improve ourselves, we upgrade ourselves in order to receive the Torah with a higher understanding, with an elevated approach from the previous years. Now, coupled with the counting of the Omer, besides the fact that we count the 49 days, there's another layer to what's going on right now. There's another layer. There's a mourning period that starts from the time from the first night of Pesach to the 33rd day of the Omer, which is this Thursday night and Friday. As you can see, some of us grow our beards during this time. Why? Because we are in mourning. Because 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died in a plague every single day. 700 funerals, 800 funerals, every single day. And on the 33rd day, the plague stopped. So because it stopped on the 33rd day, on that day, we first shave our beards, we get haircuts, we celebrate, because on that particular day, it's also the Yortzeit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rashbi. So we also have this as a layer going on. And we have to learn from that. You know, this is not something that we just grow our beards and that's all there is. The reason why we grow our beards is because 24,000 Torah giants died. Why did they die? The rabbis tell us, Shelo chalku kavod ze lazeh. They didn't respect one another. And we'll visit that in a second, what that means.
After the 33rd day, what is supposed to be
Oh, that continues. The layer of paying attention to the death of the 24,000 students sort of like dissipates, goes aside. We gave it 33 days worth of attention, and we continue our additional work, which is the counting of the Omer, which has its own deep-rooted secrets of how a person can fix his character and or work on his nature through the Sefirot, the 10 emanations, the 10 Sefirot, the Kabbalistic Sefirot that correspond to different parts of the body and different characteristics of a human being. That's the real work of the 49 days. We try to focus in on V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha and respecting one another as well as rabbis, so we can sort of like atone for what happened with Rabbi Akiva's students. And we also do is we take upon ourselves the learning of Pirkei Avot. This is a custom that we, for 7 weeks, from Pesach to Shavuot, we have a custom to learn the ethics of our fathers, which is a collection of Mishnayot that have a special place in the heart of Jewish people. Pirkei Avot, there's something very unique about it. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves Pirkei Avot. It's Musar, it talks to you. It's a spiritual guide written by spiritual giants. This book has, or this tractate, or these Mishnayot, they served as a compass, as a spiritual GPS through many millennia, through hundreds and hundreds of years for Jews. And the advice in this book is as fresh as today. And it's advice on guidance on how to carry ourselves at home, in public, in business, with fellow Jew, with Gentiles. How to navigate our family life, our social life, and our spiritual aspirations. It's all in here. It teaches us the importance of balance between material and spiritual endeavors, as well as to strengthen our faith and having the proper vantage point on our journey in this world. We have to know how to know that we are spiritual beings on a physical journey, and we have to know what type of lens to put on when we're here. You know, if you have a photographer, they're very particular to use a wide angle lens and a zoom lens when necessary, and a macro when necessary, right? You can't do a panoramic shot with a macro lens, and you can't do you can't get the right outlook if you don't have the right glasses on. And that's what Pirkei Avot does. They give us those Torah glasses that we need to have while we're on this journey in this earth. And when we see the world through the eyes of the sages, when we see the world through the eyes of the rabbis, and we try to align ourselves with the same qualities that they had, their attitudes, their behavior, the way we carry ourselves in our speech and our thought, the social values that we should have, and the spiritual approach that we should have in our daily lives. Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, has been a spiritual compass for every generation. There's been names that have lived in our homes, in our yeshivas, in our synagogues, and in our hearts. Who doesn't know Rabbi Akiva? Who doesn't know Hillel HaZaken? Who doesn't know Shimon HaTzadik, Shamya V'Avtalion, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Tarfon? These are all names that are household names. You read anybody who learns Mishnah, learns Gemara, when it comes to Pirkei Avot, and you hear them, in the Gemara, you hear their opinion, their halachic rulings, their approaches, but over here it's almost you get to see their personal side, which is very unique and very, very engaging when you start to learn it. So, as we continue the tradition here today, after thousands of years, we are here continuing the tradition of learning Pirkei Avot together and refining ourselves before Shavuot in order that we receive the Torah with an elevated level of understanding, with a renewed look, a renewed approach, an upgraded experience of living a Torah life. There's so many Mishnayot that we could have chosen to learn tonight, It's like an endless reservoir of knowledge and wisdom in these Mishnayot. A person, if would just learn Masechet Avot, would totally be able to encompass the Torah's inner beauty, to see the world through the eyes of our sages. As a matter of fact, I was very impressed when they interviewed Amari Stoudemire. When Michael Ben Melech interviewed him, he asked him, like, out of all the plethora of Jewish learning, what is really catching your attention? What are you learning, Amari Stoudemire? You know what he said? Pirkei Avot. Because it talks to you. It talks to you. So tonight I'd like to focus on one Mishnah. It's in the second chapter. It's the 16th Mishnah. I'll read it in Hebrew, I'll translate it in English, and then we'll start to dive in. It goes, Hem amru shlosha dvarim. They each said three things. Rabbi Eliezer says, Hi kvod havercha chaviv alecha keshelcha. Let your friend's honor be as dear to you as your own. Ve'al tihi noach likos. And do not be angered easily. Veshuv yom echad lifnei mitatecha. And do teshuvah, repent one day before your death. Veheve mitchamem keneged uran shel chachamim. And warm yourself by the fire of the sages. Veheve zahir b'gachalatan shelo tikaveh. But beware of their glowing coal, lest you get burnt or scorched. Shenishichatan neshichat shual. Their bite is the bite of a fox. Va'akitzatan akitzat akrav. Their sting is the sting of a scorpion. Ve'lichishatan lechishat saraf. And their hiss is the hiss of a serpent. Ve'chol devrehem kegachale esh. And all their words are like fiery coals. You know what I like about this Mishnah? I could totally close the book and say, that was great. I can really just walk away right now and say, yes, I learned something. But let's start peeling the onion. There's so much in these three lines. It's incredible. Okay. The Mishnah begins, Hem amru shlosha dvarim. They said three things. Who are they? Who are they? So, if we look, it says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made three statements on three subjects that were revolved around ethics, values, and proper conduct. But I'll teach you something about learning Pirkei Avot. Sometimes you see, Hu haya omer, he used to say, and you're scratching your head, who was it? So you know what you have to do? You have to go back to the previous Mishnah. But the previous Mishnah says, Hu haya omer, again, who's he? You got to go back to the previous Mishnah. Eventually, you'll go back and you'll find the real person that started these sayings. So if you if you just go back to a few pages back, and roughly about 7 Mishnayot back, we find the beginning. And I'll just read you their names so you know who said these things. Chamisha talmidim hayu leRabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 students. Who are they? Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenus, Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah, Rabbi Yossi Kohen, Rabbi Shimon ben Natanel, and Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. Those are the 5 people that this Mishnah says, Hem amru. They said. Who's them? Those 5 guys, right? Those 5 rabbis.
Is this a technique where it makes you go over all the Mishnahs again?
Maybe, but this is the same thing when you read Rashi. Rashi will let you know the place of where he's citing. Then when you go to the next one, if he's citing from the same tractate, he doesn't tell you the name of the tractate. You know what he writes? Sham, there. Sham where? You got to go back. And it says Sham again. You go back until eventually you find that, he's over there. So also in Gemara. So it's a good learning technique to learn. Okay, Hem amru shlosha dvarim. What 3 things did they say? Right? So the Maharal, as you recall, last time we learned together, we drew from 3 books. We drew from the book of the Maharal of Prague, which is a little bit more Kabbalistic. We learned from this small little book from Pirkei Avot that is great. It quotes a lot of rabbis, Ramban, Rava. It also has Tiferet Yisrael, Midrash Shemuel. Very nice collection of commentary, and a book in Hebrew of Rabbi Zamir Cohen, who also does a lot of did a nice job on these Mishnayot. So we're going to take from each one. So when it comes to this part that says, Hem amru shlosha dvarim, they said 3 things. What are they? What are these 3 things? So the Maharal lets us know why did they choose specifically 3 things. Why didn't they choose 4 things? Why not 5 things? Why not 7 things? The first question is, why specifically 3? So he says, musar, in order musar to be effective, and musar is when they're giving you, a life lesson, or they're giving you something that is going to change the way you live your life, the way you actually live life. Meaning, you're not learning a halacha, you're not learning a midrash, or learning a story. This is something that needs to change the way you interact outside. You go outside and you're going to live life a little bit differently because you learn a Mishnah. So it specifically needs to be 3 things. Why? Because they must be kept in mind at all times. In order for you to keep something that's going to change the way you act, think, feel, talk, it has to be on your mind at all times. And 3 is the magic number that can allow you to connect and apply. He says, a group of 3 related items is easy to remember because any of these items call to mind the other 2. You can think of one thing and recall 2 other. A beautiful example is a triangle. For example, a triangle has 3 sides, right? If I take side A, it connects to side B and C, right? What if I go to side B? Side B connects to side A and C. One side is always connecting to the other 2. He says that's how you're able to infuse a lesson in a person's mind. You give him 3 points, but as soon as he thinks of 1 point, he's able to connect it to the other 2. So that is why specifically 3. Interesting. Furthermore, it says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, what were the words of Rabbi Eliezer? He says that a person relates with his world 3 dimensions. Remember, we just learned that he did 3, but why specifically 3? Because a person interacts with 3 different facets in his life. 1 is himself, 2 is other people, 3 is God. And all the lessons that we're going to get are going to teach us how to interact with ourselves, with somebody else, and with God. Genius! Because just even just the opening line of 3, we're already, I'm walking away knowing so much. I'm ready to start talking in 3s to my children. In 3s. That's why Rabbi Eliezer's advice to enhance each of these relationships has to be with 3, because it connects to to oneself, to other people, and to God. Furthermore, the first piece of advice is Yehi kevod chavercha chaviv alecha keshelcha. Let your fellow's honor be as dear to you as your own. So you know what comes to mind right away? Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, right? Don't do unto others what you don't want to be done to yourself, right? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So the Maharal says over here that cherishing the honor of other people assures success in interpersonal relationships. How many interpersonal relationships do we have? Let's count them. Brother, sister, mother, father, aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, husband, wife, friends, colleagues, co-workers. There's so many interpersonal relationships that are part of our lives, and they make up a large part of how we interact in this world. We're not talking about the people that are on the highway, the people that are on the street that you don't know. The interpersonal relationships are a very integral part of our being. And the rabbi is telling us over here that the honor of other people assure success
In relation.
in relationships when you honor a different person, and when you honor another person. And this is, when relationships break down, and when marriages start to fall apart, when relationships start to break down, when the lines have been crossed, when the red line or the line in the sand has been crossed many times, a lot of the times when people want to come back to being good with one another in marriages and relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, anything, family feuds, the first thing that they'll ask is, at least let's be cordial to one another. Let's be respectful from one another. Because once you have respect for one another, then you can continue. But when there's no respect, the other person won't hear you. So once again, the rabbi is saying something genius over here. It assures success. When you honor other people, it assures success for other relationships. You know why? Because no matter what you're going to say, if you respect another person, you always have that. He knows that he gives honor, he gives respect. He doesn't cross that line. Regardless of what the fight or the situation or the misunderstanding or whatever it is that you guys are going through. And honor, respect is the bedrock, is the foundation of a successful relationship. Furthermore, it says, Bizam Yekohan says in his book, the same way that everybody has self-respect, right? Everybody likes to be respected, right? Everybody likes themselves. The same way that you don't want nobody to insult you, to hurt your feeling or to hurt your feelings, and you want people to respect you simply because you were created in the image of God, right? If not only just for that, you demand respect. Similarly, you should that's how you would want to honor your friend. The same way you don't want to be disrespected, don't disrespect him. The same way you want to get honored, give them honor. And at the time when somebody is coming to chastise you, or you're coming to chastise somebody else, to rebuke somebody, to tell them off, think to yourself, how would I want to be told off? Which is very, very tough, because I'll tell you why. When somebody gets to the point where they're ready to tell somebody off, that means that they are right. The other person is wrong. They are 100% in the right for saying what they're about to say. But what kills it? The approach. The delivery. So he's saying, even if you're going to come with the truth in your hand, make sure that the way you deliver that truth, or the way you chastise, or the way you rebuke, you would be okay with being rebuked the same way. Meaning, if somebody spoke to you that way, would you accept it? If somebody told you off that way, would you be okay with it? Use yourself as a gauge before you go and deliver.
Basically with humility.
With respect. With honor. That's what the rabbi is saying over here. We didn't say, you know what? It's a very good point. Humility is one of the biggest things in Judaism, because Moshe Rabbeinu, he was the Anav Mikol Adam. He was the most humble of all. He was the most humble, and humility was his character, and we strive for that. Half of Pirkei Avot is about humility, by the way. But that's not what this Mishnah is saying. This Mishnah is saying, kavod, the honor, the respect of your friend should be dear to you. Furthermore, yes.
Pirkei Avot written, or when was it compiled? Pirkei Avot.
Pirkei Avot was compiled during the time of Anshe Knesset Agdolah, if I'm not mistaken, which is during the time of the Second Temple.
Okay, and when did Akiva's students die?
Rabbi Akiva's students died
How much prior?
Later. Before or after Pirkei Avot?
I have a book here that has that. I'll pull it up at the end of the class.
Did they read Pirkei Avot?
They probably wrote some of it. Some of the rabbis that dealt
Not because they didn't respect it.
Well, you know what? You're jumping like 30 minutes into the class, but we got that. No, it's good, because that's what it is. We're getting there. We're going to get to that point. Furthermore, it says, in regards to anger, by controlling one's anger, one will be sure not to diminish his fellow's honor, right? If I'm controlling my anger, for sure, I'm not going to I'm not going to disrespect that individual or hurt their honor. So that's why the second part, it comes by means of achieving the first. Meaning when it says, "V'yeh kevod chavecha chaviv alecha, ve'al tiyeh noach likos." When you honor your fellow friend, it's already, if you do that first, then there's no way you're going to get angry, because you're already honoring the person. It's going to hold you back from getting angry. Now, the Rambam and Rabbi Yonah say something very interesting. That one must not only treat his fellow friend with respect, he has to make an effort to see that all others treat his friend in a prestigious fashion. Meaning, it's not enough that you're going to treat him with honor and with respect, but you have to make sure that if there's other people in the room that are not doing that, it's your job to make sure that they honor another Jew. The honor of a fellow Jew must be as a primary concern to one's personal prestige. In other words, the Rambam and Rabbeinu Yonah learned this out, that it's not enough that you do your own personal work, but if you see that somebody's disrespecting another individual in the supermarket, in the synagogue, at home, in your office, stand up. That's not right.
You do it respectfully.
You do it respectfully when they're disrespecting that individual.
It's the most important what? Quality? Honoring?
They're saying that they're saying it's not enough that you are going to treat your fellow Jew with respect. It's your responsibility to make sure that everybody treats your fellow Jew with respect. So if you find yourself in a situation where people are disrespecting another Jew for whatever reason, happens in a lot of different age groups, a lot of different tax brackets, a lot of different scenarios, you got to make sure you stand up and say, hey, that's not right. That's God's child. You don't disrespect him. That's another Jew. You must speak up. According to it's up to you. I mean, right now we're just learning what the Mishnah is saying, but it says for a Jew because a Jew has something very unique in him. He has that godly spark within him. So when somebody comes and disrespects somebody that has a godly spark in him, that's the whole Chabad mentality. What's Chabad? They don't see the body, they don't see the sins, they don't see how off the path they is. Well, you know what they see? They have these X-ray glasses on, that they open up the zipper and they see inside, there it is, the godly spark. We love you. Come to us. We'll nurture you back to life. We'll bring you back. We love you and respect you just because of that godly spark that's within you. That's the approach of not having, and of protecting every Jew from being disrespected because of the godly spark that's in him. Now we know that Rabbi Akiva's students failed in this in particular. As you said, Lo chalku kavod ze lazeh. They didn't honor each other. They disrespected one another. They looked down upon a fellow rabbi. Now, I've heard many different. It's not like they passed by each other and gave each other the stink eye. I can't stand you. All right, or they would go and give like some sort of a hand gesture that was disrespectful. I heard a beautiful chidush a few years ago that their disrespect towards one another was as such that they were on such a high level, they were so learned, they would get such an incredible Torah nuance, a chidush, and they would look across and look at his fellow rabbi, fellow friend, maybe even his chavruta, and says, he's not on my level. He'll never understand what I'm about to share with him. They didn't, lo chalku kavod ze lazeh, meaning they didn't give him the respect and the honor that they would comprehend or understand the high level nuance that they were able to come up with. So they didn't share the Torah with one another. Imagine. Furthermore, the second part is ve'al tehi noach lichos. Ve'al tehi noach lichos says don't be easily angered. Now, the Maharal says that anger undermines the very fabric of a person. Why? Our rabbis say, this is in Masechet Nedarim on the 22nd page, it says, Rabbi Yochanan said, all kinds of Gehenom dominate one who gets angry.
What's Gehenom?
Gehenom is hell. What's all kinds of, well, you know what, let's explain this a little bit better. What does it mean when all kinds of Gehenom dominate a person? You have to know that godly spark that we just spoke about, it's holy. It will always be holy. You can never taint it. There's a part of us that can never get sullied by our sins. What does happen though, as soon as we begin to sin, that godly spark leaves us. Just hangs out and says, I can't be in that body. That body right now is sinning. The body can't have a void. It has to be filled with something. So comes an evil, wicked soul from hell and takes the spot, and now that takes the spot of God's holy spark. And as long as the person is angry, sinning, doing all these things, he's got a different battery that's operating him until he stops, snaps out of it, does teshuvah, and the holy spark comes back and says, okay, now this is a proper dwelling for me. This is a proper place for me. So when the Gemara says, all kol minei gehenom sholtim bo, all types of gehenom dominate one who gets angry, also you'll see, it's the famous saying, when somebody gets angry, what do we say? What's gone into you?
Right.
Why do we say that?
Right.
Because exactly, what's gone into you? What type of shin dalet, what type of wicked soul is running the show right now? And that's why you see when a person gets angry, all of a sudden his face switches, it looks a little bit different. The Gemara also instructs to not look at angry people.
Ooh.
Why? Because it's like looking at Avodah Zarah, looking at an evil spirit. Furthermore, Rabba Bar Huna says, even the divine present is not important to one who gets angry. Imagine somebody who gets angry, even if you tell them, the Shekhinah is here, God is here, leave me alone, I'm upset. You know those people? Mm-hmm. That once they lose it, they could care less. They'll break, they'll curse, it doesn't matter who's here. Your mom is here to calm you down, doesn't matter. Moshe Rabbeinu is here, I don't care. Mm-hmm. That's it, they lost control, the train has left the station, there's no brakes. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, he also forgets his Torah studies and increases his foolishness. Meaning a guy can be learning. As soon as he gets angry, you see all the Torah that he learned is not doing anything for him. So what happened? The Torah says, this is not a good home for me. I got to go. Now that there's no Torah in him, what happens to him? He starts acting foolish. Look how bad anger is. And I want you to know, a lot of people are struggling with it. I am struggling with it. My friends are struggling with it. Kids, adults, friends, rabbis, a lot of people are struggling with anger. It's not so simple when things don't go your way and when things repetitively don't go your way. When you are 100% right and everybody's 100% wrong and you get triggered and repetitive trigger, it's not easy. You have to swallow 3-4 Amuna pills every morning before you can go out into the world and try not to get angry. So it's something that everybody's dealing with. But at the same time, look how severe it is, the punishment or what happens to a human being that gets angered. The rabbis are trying to teach us, try to stay away from it, and we'll see why. So the angry person forgets his Torah studies, becomes foolish, and becomes corrupt. Well, what is that worth? Nothing. Now, continues to say, the sages teach us that one's character can be discerned by the way he acts when he's under financial pressure, intoxicated, or angry. In Hebrew we say that you can judge the person according to kiso, koso, kaaso. What does it mean? You really want to know a person? Let's see how he acts when it comes to money. The true colors come out. Mm-hmm. Let's see how he acts when he drinks a little bit. That's his true colors coming out. Let's see how he acts when he gets angry. That's when his true colors come out. In other words, everybody can play a role, Mr. Nice Guy. But let's test him. Let's test him with money. Let's test him with anger. And let's test him with drinking. that's when the true colors of a human being come out. But what we see over here, the Masechet Eruvin on the 65th page reveals to us that a person that gets angered reveals his true colors. I would like to learn it in a reverse way. A person who doesn't get angered also reveals his true colors. A person who is able to restrain himself. And I've seen a lot of people, it's my rabbi. I remember my rabbi and shul. There was a couple of wise guys that just wouldn't be quiet. 3 people in the shul already lost their top. Some people were already bubbling to the top. The rabbi handled it amazing. He knew how to navigate it. He knew what to say. He knew how to get out of it with a smile. He knew how to calm it down. He knew how to control the whole crowd and make it feel that it wasn't a big deal. And he also knew how to take him to the side and tell them that it was inappropriate and the wrong time. It was incredible to watch how it unfolded. I was one of the few that was in the bubbling section. I was like, we're almost there, just holding myself back.
What were the 3 things again?
Kiso, koso, kaso. When he's drinking, when he spends the way he spends his money, and when he drinks. That's when you reveal a person's real colors. Furthermore, when it says ve'al tihi noach lichos, don't be easily angered. Let's be real. It's impossible not to get angry. Okay, it's all great. We're learning Mishnayot over here. But I'm going to tell you, as an Israeli from Moroccan descent, originally from Brooklyn, it's not so easy to say, don't get angry. Sometimes it's not an option, right? But, we work on it. So the rabbis are telling us, it's impossible to never get angry. But the Mishnah is not telling us, don't get angry. Because that's not possible not to get angry. Part of the human fabric is having an emotion called anger. But it tells us, instructs us, not to anger easily. Al tiyeh noach lichos. Don't get angered easily. Meaning, don't bubble to the top quickly. Bury the anger that it really takes a lot before you can get angry. Al tiyeh noach lichos. You see, you must be level-headed enough to assess whether the incident that sparked our anger is sufficient cause for an outburst. Is it or isn't it? I saw something genius something very cute online of a guy that had 2 Coke bottles. He shook both of them up. And then he took one and he opened it and it splurted all over. And he says, this is what happens when you get angry. You start to shoot words. He says, look, the Coke is all on the table. Some of it's spilled on the floor. Look at my bottle. Half the bottle is gone. Can I put it back? It's all gone. There's no bring back. The same thing as with words. Once you get angered and bubbled up and you shoot out, those are not coming back. He says, look at the second bottle. I shook it up, but it stayed closed. It calmed down. And look at it now. It's calm, it's relaxed, and I can open it and everything is still there. He says this is exactly how we should act when we bubble up like a bottle of Coke. Calm yourself down, just put it down. Because once you open it, all that Coke is gone. All that, you can't bring it back. Similarly is the words. And I can tell you that it's true. Especially between men and women, because women never forget, right? They got memory of an elephant. They'll tell you, 15 years ago, when we were in the car, you told me this, and I'll never forget it. You already you can't forget the fight from 3 days ago, right? Women don't forget, so you have to be careful not to shoot words that are not appropriate. Similarly, the rabbis like to give the example of putting holes, taking a nail, and putting holes in a tree, right? You keep putting holes. You take out the nail. Later on, you see the tree filled with holes. Can you fill that back up? No, that's gone. Similarly is the arrows of our mouth, the nails that we throw, the comments that we make. We have to be very, very careful with that. Okay. Now, so we learned that we have to be, it's interesting that they're talking to us about, let's do a quick review of the first line. Amazing. We know Hem Amru. We know the 5 rabbis that contributed to this Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer was saying things that are corresponding to ourselves, fellow Jew, and God. We spoke about honoring, having honor for other individuals, other Jews, to honor them the same way that we would like to get honored, and that she wouldn't be quick to anger because of the negative effects that anger has on a human being. You know what? If I close the book right now, I'm good. All right? But there's more. There's more. It says, "Veshuv yom echad lifnei mitatecha." It's letting us know that we should repent one day before your death. Why would that be? Why should a person repent before they die? Well, it says, does anybody know when they're going to die? Nobody knows. That's not revealed to us. Nobody knows the day of their death, right?
Right.
However, we have to always assume that today is our last day in the world. By doing that, by living a life that today is my last day, and if we really, really live that, by the way, not taking for granted that we got tomorrow. People that people that went through a life scare or through a health scare and wake up and they live life like today is the last day, they are getting the most out of life. They're getting the greatest life experience. Not like some of the other ones that became numb to TV and into basic routines. They do this. They're not even getting an ounce of what the world has to offer to them. They tapped out. They're clocking in, clocking out for a real mundane experience. But when you live life as if it's your last day in this world, then you don't push off teshuvah. Because what? If this is the last day, in a few hours I got to talk to God and give an accounting for all the things that I've done in my life. So what do you have to say? Just like we say in Yom Kippur. Aviti chatati pashati, Hashem, I'm sorry if I did something wrong. I did the wrong thing. I want to get on the right path. As long as a person is in that state of mind that he's constantly repenting for what he did, as if it's his last day, and always wants to forge a new path with God, what does that yield? He will spend his life in perpetual self-improvement. That means the guy, every night before he goes to sleep, Hashem, sorry, I'll get better. He wakes up the next day and tries to do better. The next day, before night, it's my last day on this planet. I'm sorry if I did anything wrong. I promise to be a better version of myself. He wakes up the following day and tries to be a better version of himself. So when a person takes upon himself to think that Veshuv yom echad lifnei mitatecha, that means that every single day has a tremendous amount of value, and every single day you're living it to the fullest, and every single day you're constantly in a state of self-improvement. If I close the book right now, I'm happy.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
How come we only do tafnun in the morning and then mincha? How come we don't do it tomorrow? If we're supposed to think of this for the next
Like
day.
reflect.
Because
Is tafnun like what you're supposed to do? That's your tshuva, kind of your tshuva for a daily
well, we
basis?
do tachanun at night, and it happens in Shema Yisrael before you go to bed, and that is the last stop of the day where you're supposed to. And we did a class on the right way to end the day. If you guys want to look it up, it's a great class. Because before you go to sleep, you sit down in a chair and you say, Hashem, thank you for ABC 1, 2, 3. And I'm sorry for ABC 1, 2, 3. And as a matter of fact, because I realized that I did something wrong with my sister, with my son, with my wife, with my friend, with my email, with my phone call, with my whatever it is that we're doing, I'm taking upon myself to say, I'm sorry, Hashem. And tomorrow, I'll try to do better. By doing that, the neshama goes up to the heavens and reports. And then, you know what they say? What do you have to report today? Well, he did 52 sins. Okay, what did he repent for? All of them. Great. Which means what? You can't judge him. He repented. Every day you're reporting sins that you did teshuvah on, and they say, okay, we can't press charges because why? He's a work in progress. He's a work in progress. He's saying, I'm working on myself. As long as he's working on himself, we're good. He's doing his job. But if the neshama keeps going up every single night and reporting 52 sins, 80 sins, 100 sins, 250 sins, what is he doing? Nothing. Get the book. Open it up. Let's go. Throw the book out, and what do we have? The dinim start to come down. But when you're in a state of constant teshuvah, perpetual self-improvement, you're also saving yourself from judgment coming from the heavens. That's why in Yom Kippur, what do we say? Le'olam Adonai devarcha nitzav b'shamayim. We tell Hashem, let your judgment stay in the heavens. Why? Because we're judging ourselves below. Look, I'm pounding on my chest. Look, I'm saying I'm sorry. Look, I'm cutting my old self. If I'm leaving it behind and it's me 2.0, I'm a baby. I'm reborn. That's whole Rosh Hashanah. But you get a mini Rosh Hashanah every single night. You cut ties with your old self and you're reborn again the next day. You cut ties with your old self and you build on the good and you let go of the bad. That's why Teshuvah is an incredible concept, and we should. It's like Hashem gave us a joker card in this game called life. It gets you out of so many different things. It helps you move forward. It cleans you up. It frees you up. You don't carry your sins like a burden on your back. You're able to let go and start anew. But if you go back to your older sins, Hashem says, wait, bring back, tie it back up. Here, take your old spiritual baggage back. You're not doing proper teshuvah.
So if you clap, does that eliminate the judgment?
Clapping is a Breslov thing. Creates a new reality, a new space over here. You can't, there's nothing wrong with clapping, whether Breslov or otherwise. Okay. All this is not even relevant to our lesson today, by the way. It was a great intro, nice way to learn Mishnah in depth. The meat and potatoes of the lesson is this part right here, and finally we got to it. It says, well, let's see what... Okay. V'heye mitchamem keneged uran shel chachamim. It says, warm yourself by the fire of the sages. But beware of their glowing coal so you don't get burnt. Okay, let's think about fire for a moment, right? Fire has negative properties and positive properties. Let's talk about it. What's positive about fire? Well, it warms, right? When it's cold outside, fire is good. It illuminates, it gives light. It cooks our food. It melts metal and makes it malleable. Meaning there's a lot of different functions that we can use fire for. What are some of the negative attributes of fire? Number one, it burns. You get too close, it can burn a person. It scars, it leaves a mark. It can destroy. We see we know fires destroy. They have the power to destroy. Towering inferno. So you have to know how to manage fire. It's not such a simple thing. It's a good thing and a negative thing. So in order to yield its benefits, you have to know how to manage it. So similarly, the Mishnah is equating the relationship of the rabbis to fire. That you have to warm yourself by the fire of the sages. In other words, if we get close to the fire to get warm, right? Those are positive. We get close to the rabbis to yield, to derive some sort of positive benefit from being around them. Which would be what? When you're around a rabbi, what do you get? You get guidance, you get advice, you get support, you get protection from sin. They know how to warn you from not sinning. They educate you. They'll sit down and they'll learn with you. There's mentorship. There's a lot of rabbis that people look up to and they follow their ways. They're a living example of a Torah Jew. They're a poster child for God's 613. So just by being close to a rabbi, you derive benefits. And I could testify to that many, many times in my life, I've had the zchut, the merit, to have incredible rabbis next to me that took the time, their personal time, to do all those things, to share themselves and to share their Torah and to mold me, modify me, change me, upgrade me as through the Torah that's within them. So I totally relate that I was warmed by the warmth of the rabbis. I got close to the rabbi and I derived benefit, definitely, many, many times in my life. So as does every Jew. However, it says that merely learning from books, like the way that we're learning right now, right? Or even listening to the words of the rabbi, is not enough, right? Let's just say I'm at home and I'm reading a Rabbi Nachman book, and then I'm reading a Maharal book, and I'm reading a Rabbi Zamir Cohen book. Yeah, that's great. And I even maybe put one of their classes on YouTube. That's great. I'm listening to them. I'm connecting to them. He says, but a person must cultivate a more intimate relationship with the rabbis to bask in their warmth of their personalities. Yes, a person might be listening to me in my class right now. Or let's just say not me, who am I? Let's say you're listening to a rabbi in a class and he's given an incredible sermon, a great of a musar, but he's teaching right now. He's in a mode, he's in a zone. When he's off the camera and he's getting a cup of coffee or eating his lunch or talking to his child or dealing with the gardener, you're seeing the rabbi interacting in real life. You don't get to see the rabbi shine through their personalities just from reading their books and listening to their sermons. So it says, Ve'im mitchamem keneged uran is getting a more of a personal relationship. You have to be in search of a rabbi. You found that rabbi, get close to him. I mean, don't be a stalker, right? But spend time with the rabbi. Have breakfast with him. See how he eats, how he carries himself. Does he pig out? Does he eat just enough? Does he eat very little? How does the rabbi eat? He has.
Different rabbis eat different ways.
Yes. Go to the park. Go to the park with the children. How does he act with his children? Go to a dinner date with the Rebbitzin and your wife. How do they interact? Spend time with the rabbi and learn from them. Get to know their personal, come close to their Torah personality above and beyond the book. Because you know why? Because the fire of their commitment to the Torah melts even the coldest hearts. When a person is not very close to the Torah, when he comes and he sees a rabbi, the way he learns, the way he prays, the way he cares about another person, the way he does chesed, acts of kindness, no matter how far you are from the world or from the Torah world, when you see a rabbi in the zone, a real Torah Jew doing the classic Torah mitzvot and maasim tovim, you know what that makes you feel? There's a great human being on this planet, and I know him, and I want to be like him. Maybe on a small level, maybe in a small percentage, but he melts away some of those levels of those klipot, those layers, those husks that have been blocking you from wanting to be closer to God and closer to the religion, which is great. Now, in a complete contrast to that, the second part of the sentence goes, and be very beware of their glowing coals, lest you get burnt or scorched. So, if you're not careful with fire, we know that one can get burnt, one can get hurt. It says, even though that we were just instructed to maintain close contact with the rabbis, right? They just told me, get close to the rabbi, right? However,
don't overdo it.
We are warned in the Mishnah not to be overly friendly. And that might bring us to be disrespectful towards them. We should allow the rabbis to initiate the points of contact and to monitor the extent of the relationship. Meaning, don't become too overly friendly where Rabbi Levi becomes, hey, Avi, ma'anyanim. Avi, ma'anyanim. Rabbi Levi to you, mister. What is this? Or you might think that you can, you're so comfortable with the rabbi that you can drop a couple of cuss words when you're, talking to him. I've seen some people, they're talking to the rabbis, and they use cuss words with the rabbis. I mean, excuse me. Hey, it's not your friend, it's your rabbi. So it says, be careful. Even though that we encourage you to get close to the rabbi, but don't be overly friendly, and make sure not to be disrespectful towards them. Now, Maharal says that the closeness that we feel with the rabbis, with the sages, we have to be careful that it doesn't lead to a sense of familiarity that can result in offending them. In any relationship, what happens when people get too comfortable? Look at marriages, look at friendships, look at anything, even at work. At one point you feel so comfortable that you like slip a little bit and say things that are out of line, right? Still, you're with the rabbi. Don't get to the point where in the relationship where you feel you can overstep the boundary of having respect and honor to the rabbi because you're too comfortable with them. Never forget the boundary between you and the rabbi. Classic example of this is Nadav and Avihu. 2 weeks ago, in Parashat Shemini, we had the story of Aharon HaKohen and his 2 sons that on the first day of the inauguration of the Mishkan, get zapped, get burnt by the fire. For doing what? For bringing Esh Zara. They had a strange fire. What was the strange fire? Their actions.
They were overzealous.
It's very interesting. Rashi, I should have brought my Chumash with me, but I'll say it off the top of my head. Rashi tells us that even though there were 15 reasons were given why Nadav and Avihu got zapped on that day, got burnt on that day and died, Rashi cites 2 opinions. One of those opinions is that they darshaned a halacha in front of their rabbi. Moshe Rabbeinu is their rabbi, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, our first rabbi. Their father is Kohen Gadol. They are the second in command under Moshe and Aharon. They were so holy that Moshe Rabbeinu thought that they didn't even know that they were holier than them. Only because they were burnt on that day that he took it as a sign that they were holier than Moshe and Aharon. Rashi says that one of the reasons why they died, and he cites the Gemara, I forgot which rabbi's opinion it is, it slips my mind at the moment, that says because they darshaned halacha in front of their rabbi. Stop right here. It's a bit harsh, right? Meaning if my rabbi was here and somebody says, Rabbi, what's the bracha on a banana? Etzo adama, and I jump. Adama, death. Death?
What did they do? They spoke for the rabbi?
They spoke a halacha in front of him. We did other classes that we went into detail. I just don't want to go off track, or I can tell you at the end of the class.
Okay.
So because they jumped and said the halacha, death, couldn't they say, sorry, Rabbi? Couldn't they just said, sorry, uncle? Sorry, Abba, can you talk to your brother? Something, death, because they spoke in front of their rabbi, spoke a halacha in front of their rabbi. Yes, they stepped over the line. There's a respect that needs to be given to the rabbis, and they didn't give it to Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's why it says over there, Moshe Rabban. They could have said Moshe, their uncle, or just the word Moshe. Why did Rashi in the Gemara specifically say that they darshaned halacha in front of Moshe Rabban? To let us know, because they disrespected their rabbi. Moshe, not their uncle, Moshe, their rabbi. So we see over here that it's very, very interesting how we have to protect the honor of the rabbis. Classic example of Nadav and Avihu. There's another prime example of how you have to be careful of disrespecting the rabbis, and it comes from the story of Rabbi Akiva and his 24,000 students. And Moshe and Zimri. In 2 weeks from now, we're going to need another story about Moshe and another individual, another prince of a tribe called Zimri ben Salu, that disrespected Moshe in public, in front of everyone. And as a result of that, 24,000 people died in a plague. As a matter of fact, I'd like to give you a little bit more about this, because this is very, very interesting. In Imre Noam,
They died because nobody stopped them? I mean, eventually somebody stopped them, but...
Was that? With the spear?
Yeah.
What's his name? The five guy's name comes to him.
Pinchas.
Was
That's
this
with him, the
Pinchas?
zealot, right? So here, I'll give you a little bit more of a background, because once you learn the story, you're going to be able to connect it to Rabbi Akiva and the 24,000 students that we're living right now. We're growing our beards because of them. We're mourning because of them. Here's the story behind the story. Rabbi Avraham Azulai, זכותו יגן עלינו amen, in his books Chesed LaAvraham, writes over there that Rabbi Akiva was the reincarnation of Zimri ben Salu. So let me take it for you. Zimri ben Salu, who is the one that disrespected Moshe Rabbeinu in the desert, got reincarnated hundreds of years later as Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva and the 24,000 students, the big story of the Omer.
Of the Prince Zivri, that's who he is.
Zimri ben Salu, Rabbi Akiva is his reincarnation.
And he's just a prince, he's not a rabbi. He's just a
Who,
prince.
Nasib, he's...
Zuri ben Zalul.
He's a mega rabbi. This is a prince of a tribe. He's a nasi. He's he's on a very high level. These were not simple people.
Okay.
Now, what was the problem? I'll just give you in short. What did Zimri ben Salu do? He went and slept with a Midianite woman in the middle of the camp in front of everybody. And because of that, it caused a plague to come on the camp, and 24,000 people died because of it. Now, our rabbis teach us in Masechet Sanhedrin on the 72nd page on the first side, that in that particular moment when this happened, all the judges in the camps were judging the people that sinned in Baal Peor. What's Baal Peor? Baal Peor was an Avodah Zarah. The Avodah Zarah was defecating in front of eating, defecating in front of this idol, and that was the way they worshipped it. So now anybody who partook in that Avodah Zarah, in that idol worship, they were judging them. So the people came to Zimri ben Salu and they tell him, they're killing our people, they're judging them to death, and you're sitting here and you're quiet? So Zimri stands up. He takes 24,000 of his people with him, and he comes to Moshe Rabbeinu. And I'm sorry, he comes to the Midianite. He persuades her to be with him, and they actually have relations in the middle of the camp. Now, after that, he brings her with him to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he comes to Moshe ben Amram. Look how disrespectful. He doesn't give him even Moshe Rabbeinu. Not Rabbi Moshe Rabbeinu, Ben Amram, the son of Amram. It's very disrespectful. Zo asura or muteret? He says, this Midianite woman that I just had relations with, is she permissible or is she forbidden? Can I be with her or cannot be with her? Can I marry her or can I not marry her? And he tells him, and by the way, before you even answer me, if you're telling me that she's forbidden because she's a Midianite, why is your wife Tzipporah permissible? She's also from Midian. What happened then? He went to the tent. He had relations with her until Pinchas the zealot came, killed him and her with a spear, and then the plague stopped of the 24,000 people that came to go against Moshe with their claim with Zimri.
Those were the 24,000 about the plague.
Right. So now, Zimri made a sin. We know that every time somebody does something wrong, he has the ability to repair, right? So he has to now, but he's dead. What can he do? Hashem says, Chesed. I'm going to do Chesed with you. I'm going to be kind to you. As a matter of fact, the numerical value of the word Gilgul, which is reincarnation, is the same numerical value of the word Chesed. 72. Gilgul is 72, Chesed is 72. And that gives us a direct correlation to say, when Hashem gives you the ability to come back and reincarnated to live out a life again, it's a Chesed, it's the act of kindness, because it's giving you a chance to repair. So how did Hashem give Zimri, who disrespected Moshe Rabbeinu on such a high level, the ability to repair? He becomes Rabbi Akiva.
Right.
Okay? That's half the story. Now,
He gives him the chance to learn.
Now, we see In the desert, 24,000 people died. How many students of Rabbi Akiva died in the plague? 24,000. Those 24,000 came as these 24,000 to repair. There was a tikkun. Those 24,000 sinned, they came and the rectification was being Rabbi Akiva's students and dying in this fashion. Furthermore, which is the time that they died between Pesach and Shavuot. But furthermore, we have something very interesting over here.
Pinchas happened in between Shavuot and the same thing. It happened right now in between Passover and Shavuot also.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a Masechet Pesachim. There's a Gemara Masechet Pesachim. We learned it in depth a few weeks ago in the Parsha class, in Parshat Shavua class. I'll give you a very small version of it so we can understand it, because it's very much connected to today's learning, and it goes like this. There was a rabbi that would darshan on the letter Et, meaning Et HaKos, the cup, Et HaSefer, the book. So the word Et, every time that it showed up in the Torah, he knew exactly how to give a full drasha on it. Until he reached one pasuk that says, Et Hashem Elokecha Tira. And you should fear God. The word Et is a type of word that attaches two words together. In other words, Et HaSefer ve'et HaKos. Et HaChulza ve'et HaMe'il. It's like a connecting word. So when he got to this, it says, Et Hashem Elokecha Tira, you should fear your God. The word Et, what can I connect that should fear God, like God? He got stumped. He says, here I retire. I have no idea how to expound on the word Et when it comes Et Hashem Elokecha Tira, and you should fear your God, is equivalent to comes Rabbi Akiva, our Rabbi Akiva that we're learning about tonight and in the Mishnah, and he says, you know what's that Et for? Le'arbot talmidei chachamim. That you have to fear Torah learners the same way you fear God. He opens up to us, he reveals to us that the rabbi got stuck on, he says, I have the definition, I have the explanation. This is lerabot, this is to add that you should fear Torah learners the way you fear God. Later on, the commentary says, where did he learn that? He says from the 24,000 that died. Because they didn't fear Torah students, because they didn't respect each other, because they didn't have the fear of God the way they would, the fear of their fellow rabbis the way they would fear God, they died. So he says, from this he learned, he says, I had 24,000 students that died. You know what's my lesson? They should have feared each other the way they have the fear of God. They had the fear of God. They didn't have the fear of their rabbis. Genius. Thank you, Rabbi Akiva. Having said that, why would Rabbi Akiva say this? Let's see if it's over here. We see, this is just to bring us back to the Mishnah. Be careful from their fire so you don't get burnt. We see the 24,000 Jews in the desert didn't respect Moshe Rabbeinu. Plague, Zimri got killed by the spear. The 24,000 students, plague. You have to be careful of the rabbis, otherwise you get burnt. Nadav and Avihu, be careful, you're going to get burnt. Maybe over here, I'll just mention one more thing in regards to fire, and then we'll move on. There's another fire that we find in Judaism. It's the fire of the Baal Teshuvah, the guy that comes back. There's a lot of fire over there. And if you don't navigate it properly, it's a big problem, because The Baal Teshuvah, the Jew that comes back, he's full of the fire of Torah. He's full. They just discovered the ultimate truth. They're so happy to have a connection with God. And all of a sudden, the wonders of the Torah are just popping off the pages to them. They're filled with fire. Now, what can he do? He can take that fire home and warm it up. Oh, come, let me show you the beauty of brachot, Shabbat, let me show you the wonders of the Torah. Let me show you how great God is, right? And the house is warmed by the beauty of the Torah and the light of the Torah. Or you can bring that fire of the Torah home and destroy every relationship in his home, every relationship at work, or even elsewhere. Why? Because now that he's a tzaddik, Baal Teshuvah, that's it. They left their old ways. They're all about God, 100% God. But what happens? They look at the guy that was their friend just 24 hours ago, who's still off the derech. What are you going to do? And they look at them and scorched earth, right? Then all of a sudden they look at them as the enemies of the religion. And, you didn't bless on that apple? You drove on Shabbat? All of a sudden you're going on vacation during Sukkot? And they hammer them, the Torah's like this, you need to do like that, you have to be careful, karet, death, this, that. That's a flamethrower. You're not going to catch anybody with that. You have to be very, very careful with the fire of the teshuvah. And make sure that it warms, and you have to know when to turn it up and when to turn it down, and to gauge the people that are around you, that they are, when to warm and when to push and when to pull back. It's very, very important how to navigate the teshuvah journey properly. I can just say that this is a very big deal nowadays, because a lot of people that are getting closer, people are at different levels. The husband shoots up to the ceiling, his wife is still there, vice versa. She's covering her head, he's still driving and smoking on Shabbat, and it doesn't. You have to be very, very careful that you get there in the same way, or
respect each other.
Or respect each other along the journey, and make sure that the more you learn together, the Torah does its thing. Sit down, learn the same thing together, plant the seed, and let the Torah do its thing. You learned it together, great. You both have the same concept in your mind. You can move forward. When the guy learns 15 books in shul and comes home and his wife is still watching the Real Housewives of Aventura, and he's nowhere close to his understanding, it's not going to go. But if you take one lesson, you learn it together, you can act on it, he can plant the seed. And believe me, the Torah has power. Once it goes in little by little, eventually it gets there. So you have to navigate that properly. Okay. So let's get to the title of the class. And it says that the Mishnah continues to give us more warnings regarding the honor of the rabbis. It says, Shenishichata nishichat Shaul, be careful of the rabbis. They have the bite of a fox. They have akitzita akav, and they have the sting of a scorpion. Velichishetan lechishat saraf, and they have the hiss of a serpent. What is that all about?
What does that mean?
Exactly. So it says that these are metaphors, obviously, right? There's 3 degrees of being burnt when you offend the sages. First one is the most severe, right? It's the bite of a fox. Why a bite of a fox? Because, first of all, a powerful intellect, a scholar, a Torah scholar, doesn't act by bits and pieces. It's they go for utter totality. Meaning, when somebody's really smart, he's not gonna, if somebody can score 100, they're gonna score 100. They're not gonna score 2, 4, 6, 52, 44. The rabbi has the ability to go all in on you and give it to you the right way, to crush you. Therefore, if his hatred is aroused, if you got to the point that now he is hating you because of the words that you said, this may be well compared to the vicious bite of a fox, who will bite completely through a limb. In other words, don't evoke the hatred of a rabbi. Very, very dangerous thing. Because a fox's bite goes even through to the bone. Furthermore, in regards to the bite of a fox, it says that a fox's bite is particularly painful and very difficult to heal. Why? Because the Rambam says that the fox bite, the Meiri says that the fox has thin and slanted teeth. And at the moment of the bite, the pain is not felt. However, when the fox removes the teeth, the pain is unbearable. Similarly, is one who tampers with the honor of the Torah scholars. Initially, you might not feel the repercussion, but afterwards, they will be felt severely. Furthermore, it says, this is what happens when somebody oversteps their bounds. You think that let's leave it at that. So we see that over here, the bite of a fox is a hard bite, hard to heal. And this is the highest level when you've not angered the rabbi. You evoked hatred in him. Be careful. We go to the next part of the scorpion. The scorpion is, it's a lesser offense. Which is what? You didn't evoke hatred. Rather, it's a lack of respect. You didn't respect the rabbi properly. And you're giving him there's a rise in resentment. He's not hating you, but you're rubbing him the wrong way, right? You're disrespecting him. So this is like a sting. It's less severe than a bite, right? A bite is teeth and it's digging in. A sting is whatever. It's one little sting.
But it can kill you.
But it's still very dangerous. This is the sting of a scorpion. You might not feel it, but then the poison starts to spread. So you got to be careful with that as well. Tiferet Yisrael says, in regards to the skin, to the sting of a scorpion, that it releases deadly poison along with its sting. Meaning, when somebody bites, when you just get a sting, it's a sting. You just like pinch yourself. But what happens after? It delivered poison within it. Be careful. The rabbis have the ability to do that as well. The saraf, the cheshatan lecheshtat saraf, and that their hiss is the hiss of a serpent. The Maharal continues to say, I'm sorry, not the Maharal, Tiferet Yisrael continues to say,
Third level.
that finally the scholar may feel only angry, meaning before, maybe it was a lack of respect. Before that, evoked hatred. This is a lesser offense. You angered him. And this is portrayed by the hiss of a serpent. What happens with a snake before they bite?
It's scary.
That's you're getting me angry.
So what is that equal to this?
So you're just like you're angering a person. He may whisper to himself, "This guy, if he doesn't stop, I'm gonna get him." You know, when somebody mumbles under his breath, it's the hiss.
It's like
right?
cursing you a little bit?
No, it's the hissing of an aroused serpent is very likely to procure to biting, right? Meaning that a serpent, before they strike, they hiss. He says similarly is when you anger the scholar,
It's a warning.
it's a warning. It should be a cause of concern that danger is imminent. Don't start with me, right? So, this is Tiferet says it's something beautiful. It says, unlike other dangerous reptiles, the serpent, the snake, once they're incited, you can't charm them down or restrain them from attacking. He says that's it. Once they're focused on you, they're not letting down till they strike. He says likewise, one should not fool himself into thinking that after slighting a Torah scholar, it will be able to appease him. You went for the rabbi, you're not going to be able to calm him down. He's going to get you back. Why? He says because even scholars, even if the scholar takes no action, right? Because right now we're talking about rabbis that are assassinos, They go for it. They don't back down, right? He's saying over here something very interesting. He says, even if the scholars take no action against their, disrespecters or their detractors, but even by merely praying to God, when they're talking to God, is like a hiss. Merely praying to God to intervene on their behalf, the hiss of prayer will be answered by Tiferet Yisrael. However, they made here a very good point, because we're painting a picture of rabbis that have words that they're not going to beat you down with a hammer. They're not going to come and seek
just
revenge.
pray for
You
you.
can't revenge. There's no seeking revenge. There's no nekama. There's no netira. That's not a Jewish way. We're not able to do it. He says, but if the rabbis are pushed into the corner where you're evoking hatred, where you're disrespecting, where you're trying to anger them,
Yes.
they're human beings. But you know why they're saying that they are like a snake?
Why?
Because a snake, when they bite, when they eat, they experience zero pleasure. Everything that a snake eats tastes like
Chicken.
dirt. Chicken. Everything tastes like chicken, right? It tastes like dirt. That was one of the curses of the snake.
Okay.
That he will eat dirt his whole life. No matter what he eats, tastes like dirt. Which means that they don't derive any pleasure. So he says the rabbi, even when they bite or they act like a snake, don't think that they derive any pleasure from it. They just have to do it because it's called for, but not for any personal reasons. That I loved.
I like that too.
That I loved. Okay. In conclusion, the last part. It says, "V'chol diburehem kegachale esh," and all their words are like fiery coals. So this is interesting. Rabbi Zamir Cohen says, he says, why do their words are like fiery coals? He says, and why, out of all the analogies, all of the examples that you could use, why specifically coals were used? Maybe they're going to use something else, right? He says, because when a person touches a fiery coal, because he didn't pay attention that it was there, what happens immediately? He gets burnt. Whether you know that it's there, whether you know that it's hot, it's not hot. You touch a fiery coal, you get burnt. There's no two ways about it. And you can't say, oh, I didn't know it was on. The ashes were on top of it. I didn't notice that it was on. He says, those are the rabbis. You might see ashes on top. You might not even see the fire. And you might try to touch them. You might try to bother them. You might try to instigate them. But as soon as you touch them, I got burnt.
Right.
That's why a fiery coal. They're beneath the surface, they're fiery hot. Says this is This is what happens to a person who tries to damage Torah learners. He can't be justified to say, oh, I didn't know, oh, I didn't mean to. You mess with the rabbi, you're going to get burnt. You mess with the bull, you'll get the horns, right? Similarly over here. Lastly, Art Scroll says, and all their words are like fiery coals. All the words of the rabbis are like fiery coals. The Maharal says something here incredible. That this is actually in reference to anyone who violates the enactment of the rabbis is deserving death. What are the enactment of the rabbis? Halachot. They're the ones that created all the halachic rulings for us. They're the ones that created a fence, a boundary for us not to transgress. And just to very loosely explain, you would never walk on a cliff. Why? Because should you slip once, you're dead. Right? So we don't walk a tightrope on a cliff our entire life. The rabbi said there's a cliff and your life is on the line. Why don't you just walk 3 feet away from the cliff? And we're going to put over your little fence so you don't even reach over and fall. Why? So you don't fall and die. So we created a fence, a protection. That's what the halachot are. Meaning what the Torah says is one thing. But who wants to walk that tightrope that one day you're here, one day you're gone? And we know that we're not in a generation that we are walking and can produce, at the end of the day, a 100% performance level in Torah practice, right? So the rabbi said, 3 steps back, here's a fence, here's where you guys can walk safely and you don't endanger your lives. So the rabbis gave us this enactment. So anyone who violates the enactment of the rabbis, anyone who messes with their words, he has to understand those words are fiery coals, and anybody who touches it is deserving of death. As the Talmud tells us, Masechet Eruvin on the 21st page says that we have to be more careful with rabbinical enactments than with Torah laws.
Oh.
Why? Did you know that the Torah requires us to do a mitzvah or to refrain from sin. Mitzvah taseh, mitzvah lo taseh. Perform a mitzvah or stay back, don't perform a sin. That's the way the Torah interacts with us. And very few laws in the Torah say death penalty. Very few. However, in contrast, every single transgression of rabbinical law is liable to death at the hands of heaven. It's mitah bideh shamayim. Meaning it's not something that they're going to enact over here. They say, hey, we told you can't do this on Shabbat, come to court and death. That's not. It's death by the hands of Shamayim, death by the hands of heaven. Look at the power of the rabbinical decrees. That's what they say. V'chol divrehem kegach le'esh. All their words are fiery coals. Be careful. Having said that, I came across a Rabbi Nachman learning. Look what he says about the rabbis. He says that the most vital thing that a person should have is faith in the Torah sages. Rabbi Nachman from Breslov says that you have to be very careful to honor them and to revere them. And even if it seems to you that they're doing something contrary to the Torah, look, something completely opposite of what the Torah says, God forbid, a person must nonetheless believe that certainly they are acting correctly in accordance with the Torah. Because the Torah is given over to our sages from generation to generation, from generation to generation. They have a tradition, and they know how to apply and interpret according to what they know. In other words, when a person just walks into the religion after 40 years being completely off the derech, and all of a sudden he says, I know in my mind for sure I can't do this. Comes a rabbi, Rav Ovadia Yosef, that was able to interpret all the things. You open up the halakha, and it's permissible. But the Torah says one thing. Yeah, but the rabbi was able to interpret it for us, for our day and for our generation, the correct way, by the that is permissible by the Torah. So they have that tradition of knowing how to do that, according to how they know. Therefore, a person has to cast aside his own intellect and ideas and rely on the sages. Look at how much trust, belief, and honor we have to give our rabbis. Furthermore, it's all rabbis.
Because one rabbi says one thing and one rabbi says another.
We'll discuss that because a person is instructed, "Vaseh lecharav," find yourself your rabbi. You're here. You have a journey of this world, right?
Yeah.
Go find the best ultra-orthodox rabbi that looks like an angel on earth, that you can trust everything that he says, that is following the orthodox way, that is following Shulchan Aruch, that is not that is not negating anything that the Torah says, and say, okay, you're my rabbi, I lead your way. And each one has Chabad has their Chabad, Breslov has Breslov. Whether they have the big rabbi or the local rabbi in the shul, you have to find your journey for a rabbi. And if you find a rabbi that is not there, that's not your rabbi. And we know that there's a lot of people that they're not exactly fitting the role, but that's okay. There is and there is. Right. We're not going to say, oh, there's rabbis like this. Yeah, of course, but there's also rabbis like this. Go to that guy. Right. Learn from him. And give him the honor. Furthermore, Rabbi Nachman says that the Torah was given to the righteous rabbis. And we are commanded to listen to them, not to go one way or the other, not to turn right or left from their words. And this is heavy. Ve'misha mezalzel, anybody who makes light of the words of the rabbi, ve'eno ma'amin b'divrehem, and doesn't believe the rabbi's decrees, mechamat shenidma lo shemidovareta enken, because he might seem, oh, you know what, the Torah says the opposite. Well, I can't follow the rabbi. You know what, I'm going to follow the Torah. The Torah is bigger than the rabbi.
No.
Rabbi Nachman says, Al yedeh, because of this, he becomes sick. Nechila, he becomes sick b'makah, with a plague. She'en la refuah, he can't get cured. Going against the rabbi's words causes a person to get sick with no cure. V'met, and he dies. K'ma'amar chachamei zichron livracha, Dilma chivya derabanan tarke dele asvata. And he brings this from a quote from Masechet Shabbat on the 110th page, an incredible quote that says, in regards to the rabbi, listen to this: perhaps a snake of the sage has bitten him, for which there is no cure. There's that snake again.
Who said that?
The tractates, Masechet Shabbat, the Gemara says, when somebody gets sick to the point that there is no cure and he dies, then they say, oh, perhaps a snake of the tzaddikim, of the sages, has bitten him, for there is no cure. Which it goes amazingly with our learning today, that be careful from the chishatan, be careful from their hiss, be careful from their bite. Rabbi Nachman said it. Look how much we need to honor our rabbis.
Yeah.
Last part, Doresh David sums it up nicely, so we can really walk away with an amazing lesson. It says, he says, there's another way to see the need to honor rabbis. There's another way to see it. He says, in Parashat Shoftim, in Sefer Devarim, in the 17th chapter, on the 9th verse, it says, when something is hidden from you in judgment, you shall come to the Kohanim, to the Leviim, and to the judge who will be in those days. Rashi explains, to the judge who will be in those days. What does it mean to the judge who will be in those days? Which days? The days of the desert? The days of Bet HaMikdash? 2021? Which judge of those days is this pasuk referring to? So Rashi tells us, even if he's not like the judges who preceded him, meaning you could say, oh, where's the good old days? When we used to have the Chafetz Chaim, we used to have the Ben Ish Chai, we used to have all these Rabbi Akiva, where's the Rashbi? I have to deal with the Rabbi, whatever the names are over here. They're nowhere close to understanding the depth of the Torah to be able to tell me what's right or wrong. Right. Says, be careful. Don't say that. The pasuk says that you bring when something is hidden from you. In other words, you don't know what's right or what's wrong. You bring to the Kohen. You don't have a Kohen, bring it to the Levi. You don't have a Levi, bring it to the judges of those days, meaning the current judges today. Why? You must listen to him, because you have only the judge who's in your days. Because at the end of the day, we're only going to have who? The judge that's in your day. The judge that is living with you in 2021, Tavshin Pei Aleph. Furthermore, it says, even if the judge is not equal in stature to his predecessors, even the guy that just retired, the person that just died, we lost the great, the guy, we could say right now, Rav Ovadia Yosef just passed away. He's nowhere close to Rav Ovadia Yosef. Don't say that. Because the person, the judge that's that is in office right now, he is divinely chosen for that position. It's not a mistake. He didn't just stumble into that position. Hashem chose him, specifically him, to be the judge. Every generation has spiritual leaders uniquely tailored to it. It's the task of the rabbis of every generation to issue halachic rulings, to guide the people on the path of Torah, to institute rules and edicts, and that are as the needs of those times dictate. Because you need the leaders the leaders that are in power to be in tune with the times, who understand the specific challenges facing the people. In other words, imagine if right now, whatever we're going through, you know who comes to judge us? Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir Bar Anes, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We can't. These rabbis were on a different level. You know who we need? We need a rabbi that understands social media, that understands living in the diaspora, that understands the challenges of sports and working and all the things of the world, the vices of the world. You bring Rabbi Meir Bar Anes, so what is he going to tell you? These rabbis lived in caves. These rabbis were talking to angels. You bring him to judge us, we'll never make it. They have to bring rabbis that understand the generation. By the way, many accounts have been made of people that died and went to heaven and came back. And they didn't go to heaven, meaning they died. They had an out-of-body experience or what do you call that? The near-death experience.
Yeah.
And they were in court. And they reported back who were the judges. And many have come back with the accounting of rabbis of who? Rabbis of that generation. Rav Ovadia Yosef was there. Baba Sali was there. All the rabbis of this past century. You know why? Those rabbis understand the people of this time. If you put Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, you put all these rabbis over there that from a different generation, they're not going to understand. As a matter of fact, the rabbi from Israel, Rav Yoram Michael Abedjel, Zechet Tzadik Livracha, many have said this rabbi used to, when he came, oftentimes when he was being driven to places, or when he was giving a sermon, he would sit there and then he would just like this. And a lot of people thought that he was just maybe tired. He's up all night learning, traveling, maybe age, whatever it might be. And he would be out for sometimes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes hours. My friend, who had the merit to drive him, one time was here in Miami, says that the rabbi told him, pull over. He pulls over. It was 1 o'clock at night, and he told him, excuse me. He asked him to leave the car. He stayed outside of the car till 2:30 in the morning, over an hour and 15 minutes. After that, the rabbi rolls down the window and tells him, okay, come back. He thought it was weird. He thought maybe the rabbi did something private, a phone call, maybe prayers, whatever it is. Later on, he shared this story with a few of his other friends. He's like, yeah, he does it all the time. He says, but you know what it is? It was revealed to us that he's actually he was a very holy rabbi. He was one of the rabbis that when there is an emergency meeting in the heaven to see if a soul stays or goes, they needed a rabbi of the times to come and judge. And he would go there, sit. And somebody came back and says, they went to the shul and they said, Rabbi Yoram, you were there. And I saw you were judging me because they wanted a rabbi of that time to judge the person. They could have brought any rabbi. How many rabbis are in heaven? But they needed a rabbi of that time. Look at the greatness of the rabbis of our time. God forbid we should discount them and discount their service or their capabilities. It's by design and uniquely by design. Now, in conclusion, tonight's lesson, in reality, highlights the rabbi's role in our lives. They are our spiritual assistants, or maybe guides, spiritual coaches, spiritual mentors. Coaches get paid, right? Rabbis don't get paid, so maybe, I don't know, spiritual coaches. They should get paid, right? Oftentimes rabbi work pro bono. You go to a rabbi in a synagogue, they take every Jew that they meet, and they take upon themselves under the Jews' problems. Shlom Bayit, okay, let me talk to your wife. Parnasa, let me see if I can call somebody to get you a job. Child raising, okay, come, let's open up a book and learn how to raise children. They help other Jews in every aspect of their lives. You want to learn, you want to get better? Sure, come sit down, let's learn together. You want to learn how to connect to God? Sure, let me teach you. Let's teach you how to perform mitzvahs properly. There are people's life coaches, therapists, psychiatrists, and oftentimes a friend. But be careful not to overstep the boundary of that friendship. And oftentimes, all for free. All for free. And getting nothing in return than the token, thank you, Rabbi. You know when you go to the rabbi, you dump all your life's problems on him, and they come back, thank you, Rabbi. Or sometimes when you dump all your life's problems on the rabbi, he's there every single morning praying for everybody in the shul. The thing, the problem is gone. He's already 2 months praying on it. He comes, he goes, so how's that thing? How you doing with that parnasa? Oh, I got a job. I'm a millionaire. I've been praying for 2 months. I've been shooting arrows into heaven for you. Let me know when things figure themselves out, when things are good. Walk over to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, no need to pray for Shlom Bayit anymore. Everything's okay. Rabbi, no need to pray for Parnasa. I got a job. Because the rabbis are there praying for us. They take up everybody's, they're praying for Am Yisrael. Yep. The rabbis walk around as the promoters of God. They're the poster child for Hashem. What a Torah Jew it needs to be in this world. They take an incredible amount of responsibility upon themselves and for others. Forget them as individuals that they need for them, for their family, and for their close circle of family and friends. But you walk over to a rabbi, a total stranger, that's it. You become his responsibility. Mm-hmm. The rabbi knows if a Jew comes to me, I need to help him. Mm-hmm. It's my role in this world. Mm-hmm. As we grow our beards, and mourn the death of the 24,000 rabbis that got it wrong by not respecting and honoring one another, we should take the time to honor the ones that did get it right and are getting it right. Globally and locally, down to our rabbi in our neighborhood shul. We have to give them the respect that they deserve for the life that they chose, for the self-sacrifice that they offer every single day, and the self-sacrifice that they offer for every single Jew in the world that comes their way, with no haflayot, as they say, with no differences. And also we need to never forget to honor them and never let the lines get grayed between the role of a rabbi and an ordinary person. Rabbis are holy. They are representatives of God. And they are walking Torah scrolls. And that's why when a rabbi comes into the room, we stand up. Not because of his beard, not because of his hat, not because he's a great guy. We stand up for all the Torah that's inside of them. We stand up for the Torah that's inside the rabbi. That's why we stand up. And keep in mind that after 120 years, when we get judged in the Shamayim, we will be judged by the rabbis of the generation. It'll be great that the rabbi from your shul sits on that dais, or sits in that judging pool of shoftim, and says, I know him, I know his struggles, I know the day and age that he was living in, the year, and he will be able to judge you favorably. They will understand our struggles, our capabilities, our trials and tribulations of our generation. We learn these Mishnayot of Pirkei Avot not to repeat the mistakes of the past and not to ever forget the role of the rabbis in our lives. I want to thank you for being here. The lesson was a bit long, but the lesson is to drive home the understanding that the rabbis are a unique individual in the Jewish fabric of life. And nowadays, it's so easily to disrespect people on social media, disrespect people because of their interpersonal relationships with other rabbis or other people. It is our job to stick to what the book says. It is our job to stick to what our sages told us. Be careful from the rabbis. Be careful from their bite. Be careful from their sting. Be careful from their hiss, and warm up to the warmth of the rabbis, and be careful not to get burned, because anybody who's taking upon themselves the role of a rabbi is a very unique individual that was handpicked by God for that role. And it's not our job to judge them, but it's our job to find the right one that can lead us in the right direction, so we can get to spiritual elevation, so we can get higher. So on the 50th day of the Omer, when we come to Shavuot, to Matan Torah, we get the Matana. What's the Matana? Torah. We get the gift of the Torah, but on a much higher level. And I know that Baruch Hashem, Be'ezat Hashem, that on the 50th day we can come up to Hashem and say, at least I know a couple of Mishnayot really well. Really well. And I want as a gift 2 more Mishnayot next year. And Hashem will say 2 plus 2. Graded. Okay. Hashem, Vayich Otchem, Sameach Otchem.
Amen.